Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Hope you subscribe. As I mentioned earlier, I have a lot of lovely, amazing friends that I want to highlight and talk to them about their journey and what they do, because I really believe that startup isn't just for tech, it's for any small business that's trying to get off the ground and trying to push forth what their vision is. So I get a lot of inspiration from my friends, and I think kind of using your inner network to keep you inspired, to keep you accountable is so important. So today I'm here with my friend Paul Conticelli and we are in his studio, and I'm so excited to speak with you about what you're doing, what you have going on. I also want to mention that Paul is not only a wonderful painter, but you do real estate and also construction management. So
a lot.
Yeah. So we're gonna get to talk about all of those things and kind of talk about how to balance, different forms of employment for income, because startup isn't easy, and you have to kind of balance yourself out and make sure that you can sustain yourself while you're chasing your dreams. So, welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Shanna.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having me.
So,
glad to be here.
Oh, good. Thank you. So I want to start by okay, obviously we're in your studio. How did you get started with painting, and what drove you to kind of step out? Maybe it was school that you started or wherever you started, but start to kind of say, this is something that I love and I want to pursue this in an open public forum.
So it's been it's a great question, a very loaded question, and a loaded answer. So for me, art and creativity have always been a part of my life, and it saved me. Pain and tragedy, that's where I turned. I had a lot of pain earlier in my life, and at points the art silenced, or I silenced it, for a couple different reasons. But then again, pain brought it back out, and it kind of healed me.
Yeah.
The journey,
a therapeutic type of expression.
Because for me, and painting, so I paint abstract, if you had to put it in a category.
Yeah.
But people have always told me they kind of relate to my art. It's not super abstract. You can still relate to some images.
Right.
But for me, whether it's abstract, realistic, whatever, you see it as it's art.
Right.
You don't have to explain it,
right.
And it's your interpretation as much as the next person. Every interpretation is valid.
Right.
So for me, writing, another thing I do is write poetry. So as I'm creating and in that mindset and going through an emotional roller coaster,
right.
or just
right.
that
right.
flow.
Right. Like a journey,
it's
basically.
a journey.
Yeah.
It's a story within me that's breathing and living, and
Yeah.
I'm just expressing it on the outside.
Yeah.
So it was something that I always kind of kept private for myself. My immediate family, my mom, my dad, my brothers, they knew, but very few people in my family knew.
Yeah.
Or friends.
So how did you get to that point where you thought you wanted to share this expressive kind of art form, this one expressive art form with others, with the public, and how did you get started, or what was that kind of tipping point for you?
So probably about 5 years ago, I was at a good friend's, and I'll tell you that story,
Yeah.
and then I'll jump to another piece.
Okay.
So I was at her house for the weekend,
Yeah.
with some friends. We were celebrating, I think, 4th of July, and I just had started my first official art website. I had been laid off from a job, and I interviewed twice, and I just said, you know what, I'm not ready to interview right now. So I took about 6.5 months, and I just said, I need to focus on me, and I just painted a lot, and that's when I created my first art website, and I started to put it up, because people always said, you're so talented, how come you don't show it?
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'll make a portfolio. It was really, I didn't have many intentions yet. And when I was there that weekend, her father collects art. And he said, you know, my daughter was telling me about your website. And I took a look and I told Kelly, like, I really, really love Paul's work. So I want to make an offer on one of your paintings. And if you accept it, then you can't go and try and sell it to anybody else. I said, of course not.
Right.
And it was just a 10-inch by 10-inch for $1,500.
Wow.
And I said, okay.
So that was his first offer? Was there any negotiation?
No negotiation. And for somebody who collects art and has such an incredible collection, that really wowed me. And I said, this person believes in me and sees something really special. And when I compared to, you know, all the other works that he has, that just made me realize, like, I have something special. I should share it with other people also.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now they have 3 pieces, and 5 years later, and then I just went from there, and I started to create more and more. My website started to get more and more refined, and then do you want me to continue on that journey?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that is interesting to point out that, like, sometimes, you know, what you're doing really is for yourself, and doing and going through a process to help yourself, whether that be healing or kind of like taking steps to kind of move through a certain situation or whatever. And then you kind of decided, or someone believed in you so much to share that. And sometimes that's all it takes, is that one person to, like, set you on a path.
Yeah, and I think for me, so I created my whole life, and people would ask me to make paintings for them, or at one point I had my first business cards when I was 8 years old.
Wow.
My parents said, I wonder what he's going to be when he grows up.
But okay, so tell me that story. Like, why does an 8-year-old have business cards? Okay, I understand, like, now 8-year-olds have business cards, but, like, then yeah.
So I was always business oriented, and I just always was fascinated. You know, I said, I can't wait to be in New York one day, like walking around holding my briefcase, giving out business cards, networking. And I was always, you know, a people person. I always enjoyed talking. And creating. So I said, you know, why not create and put my art out there? That was fearless me at 8 years old. As shy as I was, that was also fearless me in terms of creativity. And I started like a little jewelry line, and I gave my business card to the waitress, the waiter. I gave it to the people at CBS. Anybody and everybody
who would take it.
You know, there was a point where I was making wreaths for for sale. There was a point where I was painting ceramics. I was painting paintings. So that was always in me.
So I think that's a good point too, because entrepreneurship, you know, people use this term serial entrepreneur, and I know that, like, now with entrepreneurs and startups, there's so many different, like, on-trend words or keywords, or buzzwords that they call it, that people use, and that's one of them, which is, like, serial entrepreneur. But I think, like, when you're creating, that's not what you're really thinking about. You're just thinking, like, I'm having a great time, and this is what I'm into now, until you, like you said, refine what you want to do.
100%. So that, for me, I think it's always been a passion, but it's always been fun. It's been healing. It's been a journey. It's good emotions. It's hard emotions, but it's expressive, and it's like I said, it's fun. So I don't feel like I'm doing anything out of the ordinary. You know, people say, how do you do it all? I go, I don't watch TV. I really don't. Because in my free time, I paint. You know, that's what I like to do for fun. Besides, you know, working out or seeing friends, but I don't sit on the couch, because if I sit on the couch, I start thinking about, like, oh, well, that shape is really cooler. Like, that looks inspiring, and then I want to go paint. And
So
if I start painting, I don't want the TV on, so I listen to music.
Yeah, that's so true because I was watching something that talked about how like much of our social media and and just media in general kind of like dulls your own creative senses, and you know it really kind of takes away from your ability to think on your own, really. So I mean, you know, what you're doing is avoiding kind of that like exterior influence and just kind of painting what you see.
Yeah, I think in every way, you know, I think you can use it as something to your advantage,
Yeah.
but in so many ways it's like a disadvantage to humanity and to like our soul. You
Yeah.
know, is because we get masked by what everybody else is doing,
Right.
and especially as an artist,
Yeah.
that's the last thing that I'm going to do is
Yeah.
compare my art to everybody else,
Right.
because I don't, you know, people have compared some of my paintings to Monet, to
Yeah.
Van Gogh, to Picasso, and
Yeah.
that makes, I'm like, that's insane to hear,
Yeah.
and that's such a beautiful comment, but that's your interpretation.
Right. Right.
I would never, you know,
Right.
I'm inspired by art.
Mhm.
They're incredible, but I also find inspiration from street art.
Right.
You know,
Right.
but I think if you're comparing and you're seeing what the trends are and seeing what people are buying or selling, you know, then you're gonna lose sight of your own art
Right.
and really what's in you.
Right.
And I don't want to change that.
Right. Right. You know, you touched on something earlier, a comment that someone made to you about kind of like how do you do it all? So, how do you do it all? Because you do poetry, you paint, real estate, construction. So, like, what do you prioritize? How do you, as a person, like balance all of those things?
So I'll give you a little rundown of my schedule.
Okay.
So 3 days a week I'm in Long Island.
Mhm.
I'm the director of operations for a contractor.
Okay.
And that's really exciting. I've been in construction for 10 years.
Yeah.
My father owned a construction business, you know, so when he would come home with architectural drawings,
Yeah.
and he would be sitting there and using highlighters, everything, I'd be like, oh, it's like a big coloring book.
Right.
So I was fascinated.
Yeah.
So ironically, I ended up in construction. I didn't go to school for art. I went to school for finance and international business. I did my master's at Columbia in construction management. So the first year out of college, I did bank fraud and compliance, and then I moved back to New York. Started with a mechanical contractor, and then that's been my journey, because that's the other side of my brain.
Right.
And to me, that's equally an art and a skill.
Yeah.
And it's not something that I want to turn right back to or
Right.
abandon.
Right.
And I don't like, for me, I don't like art school. Like, it's just, I enjoy it more
Right.
raw. So I pursued that, and now I do construction 3 days a week in Long Island.
Yeah.
I'm on call the other 2 days a week and working from home. And then those times that I'm also working from home, as I could be on a call and I could be painting. And that's just how I am.
Yeah.
And I also have a real estate team. So there's 3 partners, Les, Haley, and Rebecca. We're at Compass. So they've helped me out a lot, and I also help them.
Yeah.
But they're very understanding to my schedule, and my clients, fortunately, you know, love me.
Yeah.
and are really happy and proud of me for pursuing this path. So if I can't be there, they're okay meeting with one of my partners.
Yeah.
So I have a team for real estate.
Yeah.
I have a team for construction,
Yeah.
and I'm the artist. And you know, I don't really go out and drink a ton.
Yeah.
I don't really go to bars and clubs.
Yeah.
I used to, and I will every once in a while
Yeah.
if it's somebody's birthday or something important. But prioritization is this.
Yeah.
You know, while I'm young and
Yeah.
while I'm savvy
Yeah.
and hungry for it,
Yeah.
I'm like, this is what I want to remember. This will be a vivid picture in my mind, not that night out.
Right.
You know, every once in a while, yes, but I do it more selectively.
Yeah. You know, there's that saying, oh, a great night out is a night you can't remember. But, you know, the importance of what you just said is like rings so true because, you know, we don't live in those one moments that like we choose to just like blow everything. We live kind of in the everyday kind of construction of our lives. And I think, you know, you've really kind of created and constructed a really beautiful life. So
Thank you.
back to your artwork though. Tell me like how you started with this kind of, so you have like a couple of different themes, right? Through your art, I guess I can say.
Yeah.
So you have the blocks that kind of come together to form one picture, and you'll kind of go over exactly what it is because I'm sure I'm butchering what. But like, what medium do you use? What kind of, you know, just tell us a little bit about what inspires you and kind of.
So I find inspiration really from anything and everything. From, you know, color and texture. Color and texture, I would say the most.
Yeah.
And my aunt loves telling that story. She said, you know, I always said there was something with this kid. He would just come up, whatever I was wearing, and and say, "Oh, Aunt Ida, I love this. It feels so soft." And she would say sometimes I even wanted to put like her vest or something on.
Yeah.
I always was drawn to that. So that comes out of my art. When it comes to the actual creation, I create a color palette and I mix paints together, different hues to create a new color that I'm going for. The challenge with that is I can never really duplicate that exact color.
Right.
So if I don't make enough of it,
It runs out.
And it runs out, then I can make something similar. But that's exciting because it challenges me.
Right.
I use acrylic, gouache, watercolor, sometimes pastel,
Okay.
and sometimes oil.
Okay.
Oil is very, very toxic. And
Oh.
you see I live in a studio,
Yeah.
and this is where I paint also.
Yeah. The smell is very.
The second I open the tube, if I'm not wearing a mask, I'll get a migraine, and I don't like wearing a mask, and I don't like wearing gloves.
Yeah.
Because it's just not as like free.
Right,
you know?
right.
So I always.
But the acrylic dries so quickly. You have to work fast with that.
It doesn't dry as quickly as you
Okay.
probably think it
Yeah.
does, but I also use that to like my advantage.
Right.
I think you know, like I'll use it, I'll let it dry sometimes a little bit, and then I'll go over it, just parts of it to make it thicker
texture.
and to create depth and texture and shadows. So if you do one layer, or if you do 2 or 3, then it's going to slowly start building.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I want to layer another color on
Yeah.
top. And the new collection is the complexities. That's with the several blocks or squares or canvases. But each one I paint individually. It's with a concept or a theme in mind or a story. And then I piece it together.
Okay.
The composition.
Wow. So it's not something that you draw out or think of as one piece and then you work on it individually. You work on them individually and then kind of piece the concept together.
And then I piece it together.
Wow.
So it's a compilation of however many tiles. That's
Yeah.
how many paintings. So this
Yeah.
is 88 paintings individual. And then I put it together the way I see it, and that's a commission. So it was a little bit more of a collaborative effort, where I met with the client a couple of times, and we pieced it together in my way, and then I asked him to come over and see how I did it, and he rearranged a few. So that was also really fun.
Very cool. So in terms of like your startup kind of business savvy, how do you kind of go about publicizing your work, marketing your work, looking for new buyers? Like what is that like in the art world?
So it's very challenging.
Yeah. I can imagine.
And I like to talk a lot, and I always use any opportunity to network. That's not an easy skill for many people, but I'll ask for a business card if we're having a conversation, and I follow up.
Yeah.
And I invite people into my space if I see there's an interest to show them my art. That's why I have it more like a gallery. I personally don't really trust social media. So if you've been on my Instagram, I think there's like 25 posts, and they're not even all of my artwork. But I don't post a like easy image because a lot of artists have gotten copied and replicated, and their art has been stolen, as well as photographers. And talking about like why I don't really care to be so active on social media, because I don't want to mask my artistry. I also don't. I'm so protective of putting my art out there and having somebody copy it, because that's not what it's about. So for me, it's really been word of mouth, and I've been fortunate with that. And showing my website, but selectively. And I showed for the last 2 years. I also was in Brussels, Berlin, Miami for art, Basel, West Palm. I was in a show in LA for a month.
Wow.
I went to San Francisco, and I met with a couple of people there who were interested in the art. So word kind of traveled, and I just kept traveling with it.
You just kept following up with people, and I think it takes a lot of energy and like a concerted effort to follow up and make sure that you're staying on top of whoever you network with. I mean, I think that's important across all sectors. So I was just wondering, so when folks reach out to you and they're a potential buyer, or maybe they're an art dealer, what is that process like?
So they'll reach out. Some will want to see, a whole portfolio.
Okay.
And sometimes ask for more works. If they ask for more works, I just invite them to my studio.
Okay.
To me, if they're really interested, again, come and see, because also I think a photo is a flat image.
Right.
And you can't appreciate art. I mean, there's a reason why, like with lighting, I use iridescence in some of my pieces. I use gold leaf. That sparkle isn't going to show, and an iridescent is, it may look flat white when you're looking head on, but then if you turn on an angle and you're looking at it, or the light hits it, it's going to be maybe a blue, or a violet, or a little bit of a purple. So you're going to miss that in a picture. And if you're an art dealer or a broker or a gallery, that's important for you to see. And to actually be up close and study the art. In this painting behind me, I have rose petals in the piece.
With the gold leaf.
With the gold leaf. And, I love flowers, so I didn't want to throw them out, but I didn't want them anymore, because somebody had bought them for me, and I was like, not going to throw them out. So
I'm gonna recycle them.
I'm gonna recycle.
Okay.
So
repurpose them.
I repurpose them.
Nice.
So instead, I put them in my art.
And
it was a concept that I thought of another time, and I experimented with, because they said, I don't know if it'll last, but I won't share my technique, but I have a technique that I use flowers also sometimes in my pieces. And you wouldn't get to appreciate that if you weren't seeing it in person.
Right. Because flat, it probably looked like a cluster of paint and texture, but you wouldn't actually know that it's a rose.
Right.
Or
and
a flower.
if it's somebody that I think it's a potential client that I could commission a piece for, I ask them to come here, because I just say, explore. Where does your eye take you? Which painting do you want to see first? And we go over to that piece. And I say, so, what does this make you feel? Happy. Okay, so if it makes you feel happy, where is happy to you? Show me in the painting where you're feeling happy. If you're feeling like pride, freedom, so I start to try and understand your eye. So is it the color? Is it the shape? Is it the texture? and then we just kind of like journey around the apartment,
Yeah.
and we're having a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that's really important. And I think if you know, art is a treasure. You know, it's something, especially if it's not like a replica. I
Yeah.
don't do any replicas.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that, but personally, I don't.
Yeah.
And that means that you are the only person in the entire world
That has
with
that.
this piece,
Yeah.
and it will never be duplicated. You know, that's special. So you should want to see it in person.
Right. Absolutely.
You know, you wouldn't buy a car from just looking on the internet.
Some don't
some
say
peop-
that
some
because
people may,
now,
actually.
now there's an app for that.
But I mean, you know, that's where I guess I'm
Yeah.
old school traditional.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I don't.
Yeah.
But you want to enjoy that process.
Yeah.
You know. And sometimes when I've invited people here and they were interested in actually buying a piece, it turns into a commission because they saw it and they just got so excited.
Right.
And they were enjoying the conversation. They
Right.
said, you know, actually maybe you can make me a piece instead. So the conversation flipped.
Right. Right.
But it's also, it's personal. You
Right.
can ask me questions, which is why I am not at a gallery.
Yeah.
I've taught to a couple of galleries and I showed with a few, but I don't anymore, and I just represent myself.
Yeah.
Because
So what was that process like? I mean, do you go to the galleries and ask them, you know, are you guys accepting new artists, or is there kind of like an application process? What is that like?
it's extremely hard.
Yeah.
Galleries are very quick to turn you away.
Yeah.
And I had a gallery in Tribeca, for example. This was 7 years ago. Look at my art and came to the apartment or the studio and said, your work is great. And when we talked about the price point, he wanted me at $2,000 for a 48 by 48, and I said, I'm not comfortable with that. I'm comfortable at $10,000. And he said, well, I agree with you. I think that the value is there, but he said, you can't start there. And I said, but you're telling me that my creativity is
at that level and valued at that level, but you won't.
Right. So I just said, you know, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
And I ended up selling that piece for $12,000.
Wow.
You know, I just
Yeah.
and I think that's like a good point to make.
Yeah.
Is when it comes to creativity, when it comes to entrepreneurship, you have to 100% believe in yourself.
Right.
You can't abandon yourself. You can't let any of those comments chip at you.
Yeah.
You know,
and steer you away.
Steer you away, and you know, even with creativity, I've had other gallerists look at my work and say, all of it's great, but we only want to see this.
Yeah.
This is all we're gonna show.
Yeah.
And I said, but that's not what I
That's
want.
not the collection.
Maybe
right.
that's what you like. But the next gallerist might say, okay, we want you to do this style. You know, and again, that's gonna appeal to only a certain market.
Right.
But I want to just create, and whoever it appeals to, it appeals to.
Right. And I think that's so true, and it's kind of the theme throughout our series, is about, like, you know, there are so many people out there and so many big names that talk about what they're doing, and I really just want to put it out there that, like, us everyday people can create amazing things and do amazing things, and it doesn't have to be like some grand thing. And I'm sure you have a vision to grow and you want, like, to succeed, but, you know, what does that mean to you? And I think, you know, as long as we continue to, as you said, value your creativity, your output, and, you know, just stick to and hold fast to your vision, it's like the most important thing that you can do. And in the end, it leads to success, and you led to a sale.
Yeah, and fortunately have led to many sales.
Yes.
And
many sales.
and I have collectors in 10 countries
Wow.
now, which is really
That
exciting.
is fantastic. I applaud you for that because, you know, it takes a lot to one, put your own kind of like internal feeling and internal kind of thoughts onto paper for people who are writers and also painters, and then to move past that and share it with other people. It's like, it's very personal, and I, you know, as a startup, mine is very personal to me too, you know, and a lot of people come up and they nitpick at one thing or the other, and I think going back to what you were saying about just like, you can take that, you know, you can say thank you for your thoughts, but this is my vision, you know,
And I think I just remember one. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
so
it's okay.
A couple of quick points.
Yeah.
England was another place, and I was doing my master's. I was working full time. This is an example of just like entrepreneurship and full dedication.
Hustler status.
It was somebody had referred the guy Liam, and he sent me an email. He said, "I heard about you. I'm in the States. I love to collect art from local artists. Whenever I travel, I've come to the U.S. 3 times, and I haven't found an artist that I've really fell in love with, or you know." So he said, "But I've seen some of your work. I would like to meet you." He came here and he said, "I leave in 3 days. Is there any way that you can make me peace?" I said, "It's gonna be hard. I just got back from St. Lucia that morning.
Wow.
I had class. I replied to the email. I was like, 'Can you meet me tomorrow morning?' So he met me in the morning. I painted it in 2.5 days for him to fly back with, and it was just a small piece that he wanted. It was 11 by 4, I think. But I said, well, if somebody's coming to me, I don't care how much I have on my plate. If that person wants a piece of my art, that's incredible. Of course. How could you turn that away? You know. But then the other point I was going to make is what you were saying. It's like staying out of your own head and believing. If you believe in yourself, you don't need anybody else to really believe in you. You know, you want that support, but you can't depend on it.
But it takes patience,
it takes a lot of patience and a lot of dedication. And you know, I think it's also, you know, you said something before that made me think of, it's like feeling famous in your own world and feeling comfortable in your own environment. You don't have to, you know, it's like, to what level is success to you? Do you have to hit a certain dollar value? Do you have to hit a certain number of sales? Do you need to have a certain number of followers on Instagram, you know, or a certain number of likes? Like having a certain number of people like a photo of my artwork, that's not any measure of success to me.
But having that piece in someone's home that they see every day and they treasure and value, I mean, that says a lot, that people actually want that to be a part of their everyday lives, you know?
Exactly.
And I think we fall so short, especially with media and social media, of kind of like just like thinking that everything exists in our phone. And that's not life. You know, life is how you feel, what inspires you, what you create, how you love and like care for people. And I think, you know, that definitely shows through your artwork.
Yeah, and it, you know, to add to that, to me, it's like communication and expression, and having, I think the best feeling in the world is having one of my collectors send a photo of a piece of art that they have in their home now, and just say, you know, this makes me smile every day, or you know, I'm having a glass of wine, or I'm having a cup of coffee, and I'm sitting here looking at the piece in awe. You know, like, and like you said, I get to walk by it every day, and I fall in love with it. There's so much in these pieces as I'm creating them, and then it's an energy flow. You know, so it's giving out the same that I poured in. It's pouring out. And that's material, but that's not technology. And it's still speaking to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a material through a medium, It's material because, yes, it's you know, the canvas and paint, but like it's an expression, and like you can feel like even if you run your hand on it, the strokes, and like, you know, you can just see the expression coming out at you. So I think it's a little more than that. You
There's
know,
life
there's
there.
life there.
You
Hey
see
boo.
that?
Hey boo. All right, so maybe you can take us. Well, first, do you have any tips for kind of like entrepreneurial creatives? Do you have any, like, what are your top 3 or top 5 tips that you would have for them? I know we went through a couple, so you can reiterate or you can add more.
So I think, there's a few. Definitely, you have to 100% believe in yourself. I think believing in yourself, and you don't need to be clear on a vision. I was never clear on a vision, other than, you know, I'm gonna follow my passions.
Yeah.
That was my vision.
Yeah.
But to sit down and actually like map out a business plan,
Yeah.
maybe, but at the end of the day, you just have to believe.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just falls into play as you're going through it.
Yeah.
You know, the second thing is when it comes to your finances, you have to watch every single penny you're spending in your professional life and your personal life. If this is, you know, to pursue entrepreneurship, to pursue anything creative, you have to realize it's extremely challenging.
Yeah.
And I have had several moments where I've been so tense because I don't know when I'm going to get another paycheck. And then sure enough, I'll sell a painting, or I might get a small commission on a real estate deal.
Right.
You know, and
that keeps you going.
right.
Yeah.
And you know, the contractor, that's a different part of my business.
Right.
So also with entrepreneurship, I have 3 main streams of income, but I operate them individually and I keep the money separate.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important, as well as keeping your personal and your professional separate.
Right.
So when I sold that painting for $1,500,
Right.
I kept that in a business account.
Right.
And there were
Oh,
times
it's
that
so important to start out your finances on the right track, because
completely.
you know you can totally get lost, and Uncle Sam does not play.
No.
But I mean, in order to, you know, they say it takes money to, you got to spend money to make money. And you have to spend on your business. So you have material costs, you have studio costs, you have, you know, maybe someone wants you to ship it and maybe you charge them or maybe you charge yourself. But there are a lot of costs associated with having a business.
There's a lot of costs, and it's figuring out which costs are necessary.
Right.
And which costs, you know, it's like your wants and your needs.
Right.
And if you're in the store and
Yeah.
you have $20 in your hand and you're like, I can get 1 item or I can actually buy 4 items.
Yeah.
So what's
What
important?
are you gonna do?
And of those 4 items, do you really need all 4?
Right.
Or maybe do you need 2?
Right.
Well, if you buy 2, now you have maybe, even if it's $5 left, well, you don't need to spend that $5.
Right.
You know, so in terms of that, that's when planning is important. You don't need to necessarily have a structured business plan, but when you're making your financial decisions,
Yeah.
you have to be planning ahead
Yeah.
in your short term and your long term,
Yeah.
and being aware of what your costs really are,
Yeah.
and then get creative with it.
Yeah.
You know, this year I'm planning a solo exhibition, my second one, in New York City in the fall.
Yeah.
And I'm more confident doing that than paying $12,000 to show at Art Basel
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Because why?
Right.
I
And you showed there last year, right?
I showed there last year, and it was amazing. It was a great
Yeah.
experience. But when it comes down to dollars and cents, to me, I think it's a smarter marketing plan
Yeah.
for me to bring it all the attention and the light on myself and my art, then share that spotlight with
Right.
with other artists.
Do you think that Art Basel was beneficial for you? I mean, did you meet enough kind of folks to follow up with, and then that matriculated into something else, or do you think it was it was great for what it was, but not?
So I
Yeah.
think it was beneficial, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that would probably be like another tip. I think any decision that you make as an entrepreneur,
It has to benefit.
you have to, if you're making it, and
Yeah.
you're going along with it, you have to be justifying it and stand by that decision.
Right.
So maybe it's not going to go as planned.
Right.
Many times it won't.
It doesn't.
But
yeah.
you have to see the other side of it.
Yeah.
So even if you don't make an art sale, you may make an art sale, great. But
Right.
if you don't make an art sale,
Right.
what did you take away from that?
Right.
Maybe it's meeting other artists and learning experiences from them. Maybe it's meeting a photographer that wants to shoot your art,
Right.
or a gallerist, or just having the confidence in the pricing of your own art.
Right.
So you can always pull something from it. So it was definitely beneficial. It was a great experience. It was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
This year, I'm not sure if I'll be showing there, but I'm excited for this solo exhibition I'm planning.
Yeah.